Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Moments. What if a single simple photo could spark thousands of theories, while a split-second, almost invisible, actually holds a much deeper truth? Recently, Kim Tae-young uploaded a casual photo on Instagram, and in an instant, the internet turned into a sea of speculation. Just because he was seen with Jungkook at a restaurant, many immediately labeled it as a date, even building elaborate stories without a single real confirmation. But it all fell apart just as quickly as it began. When JHope shared another angle, the truth became clear. It was simply a group gathering. And this is where things get interesting. While one big narrative turned out to be nothing more than assumption, there was another moment, smaller, shorter, that went unnoticed, yet felt far more real. 1 second at the airport, one reflexive movement, and one interaction between Jimin and Jungkook that left half the fandom speechless. So, which is more believable? A grand story built from imagination, or a small moment that happens naturally? Recently, Kim Tae-young did upload several photos on Instagram. At first glance, everything looked ordinary, casual snapshots filled with warmth and a sense of togetherness. But among them, one image immediately caught attention. He was at a restaurant with Jungkook. From that simple moment, a wave of speculation quickly exploded among fans. Some wasted no time constructing a narrative. Without hesitation, they labeled it a date. And not just a light assumption, the claim evolved into highly detailed stories, as if everything had been carefully planned. Some created theories about weeks of preparation. Others interpreted the atmosphere in the photo as hidden closeness. All of this was presented with strong confidence, despite the absence of any official confirmation. In a short time, collective imagination took over. A simple photo transformed into proof of a hidden relationship, a romantic moment, even an intimate meeting long believed to be secret. What started as a small narrative became increasingly complex, until some treated it as absolute truth. And yet, at its core, it all stood on one thing: assumptions without context. But the excitement didn't last long. Not long after the speculation spread, JHope uploaded content that offered a different perspective. It became clear that the restaurant moment was not a meeting between just two people. Other members were there as well. In other words, what had been believed to be a romantic date was simply a group gathering, something completely normal for them. In an instant, the carefully built narrative collapsed. What was once considered strong evidence turned into an unfounded assumption. This once again shows how easily a story can form from incomplete information, growing uncontrollably until it feels real. This phenomenon isn't new. The pattern keeps repeating. A moment is taken out of context, magnified, and filled with personal interpretations that drift further from reality. And when more complete facts emerge, the construction slowly falls apart on its own. What's interesting is that the question isn't just about right or wrong, but why this keeps happening. Why are complex scenarios more easily believed than simple, logical explanations? Why do assumptions feel more convincing than facts? In the end, this serves as a reminder that not everything we see carries a hidden meaning. Sometimes, a moment is simply a moment. And as proven once again, reality always finds its way to the surface, dismantling stories built without foundation, no matter how convincing they initially seem. Yet on the other hand, there is a different kind of moment, smaller, shorter, that feels far more meaningful. Let's go back to a moment we've already seen. It was incredibly brief, so brief it could be missed in a blink. But that's exactly why it felt so real. No dramatization, no attempt to draw attention. Just a fraction of a second, yet enough to leave half the fandom silent, while the other half searched for explanations. The context was simple. Jimin walked ahead, calm as usual while moving through the airport crowd. Jungkook followed a few steps behind, a familiar pattern that had never raised questions. But the dynamic shifted when Jungkook quickened his pace, catching up to walk beside Jimin. This wasn't random. He chose to move closer. From that point on, small details began to speak. Jungkook wasn't just walking, he was observing. His gaze occasionally shifted toward Jimin's side, as if making sure everything around him was safe. This wasn't staged, it was instinctive. Then came the key moment, when security called Jimin, signaling they would separate into different vehicles. The situation suddenly changed. The crowd began to close in, creating pressure in an increasingly tight space. Within seconds, without hesitation, Jungkook reacted. And this is where the debate begins. Some tried to simplify it. He was just guiding Jimin because he was called. But if that were the case, his reaction would have been much simpler, just a hand gesture. What actually happened was different. Jungkook didn't just point the way, he positioned himself as a barrier. Look closely at his movement. He didn't push Jimin aside, he placed him slightly behind. This is a basic protective gesture, a reflex to position oneself between someone and a potentially uncomfortable situation. At the same time, Jimin responded just as naturally. He reached for Jungkook's waist, not out of surprise, but out of trust. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness. Their movements flowed effortlessly, as if it were second nature. And that's what makes it so unique. This kind of synchronization can't be created in a single moment. It's built over time, through repeated comfort, through interactions that become part of daily habit. This wasn't something designed to be seen. It happened because it already existed. Interestingly, some reactions felt exaggerated, because this wasn't the first time such a pattern appeared. For a long time, their dynamic in public spaces, especially at airports, has shown the same thing. Jungkook instinctively moving closer, and Jimin naturally responding. This wasn't new, just another version of something that has happened repeatedly. Jimin himself has even expressed discomfort in overly crowded situations. If Jungkook knows that, then his reaction makes perfect sense. Not to create a moment, not for the camera, but as a simple reflex, to understand and then act. And that's exactly why this moment feels so powerful. No dialogue, no dramatic spotlight, just 1 second. Yet within it, there is a tension, care, and trust that cannot be faked. What's interesting is that while some people quickly believe weak, contextless interpretations, when faced with a moment that is actually clear in body language and consistent with past patterns, they choose to call it coincidence. But the closer you look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't coincidence, it's habit. For those who have followed them for a long time, this moment feels sweet, but not surprising. Their closeness, natural touch, and spontaneous responses have always been part of their dynamic. In the end, the essence of all this is very simple. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic scenes. Not about forced narratives or theories built from fragments. Just 1 second, almost invisible, yet within it lies something far more real. Instinctive care, genuine concern, and trust built over time. And maybe, precisely because the moment is so small, its meaning feels so much bigger. In the end, we don't always need complicated theories to understand something. Because sometimes, in the briefest moments, without scripts, without staging, we can see what is truly real. If you felt the same from that small moment, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because here at Jikook Moments, we don't just see what's visible, we try to understand what's truly felt.